Okay. Um, Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening again. So we are sorry for the delaying today's session for 7 minutes because we're waiting for the other audience to join. So many many YouTubers have been joined. The viewers has been joined in YouTube. So I think we shall start the session. And Ajrimala, for sorry for delaying the session for 8 minutes. Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. And now Tibet House Culture Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi is delighted to host today's session, which is the virtual teaching series title called Introduction to Buddhism, which consists of 24 different topics, and we are inviting different speakers with advanced knowledge of Nalanda Buddhist Studies. And this time we have Ajahn Rimala, Mrs. Rimala, who will be speaking on the topic Bodhicaryavatara, chapter number 4 on Conscientious. So thank you very much, Ajala, for accepting, and she has already spoken before on our last session. So before we further delay, I would like to request Ajahn Rimala to kindly proceed the session, please.
Thank you, Domala. Tashiri, everyone, as Domala said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining, and all the viewers who are viewing this online. Very heartfelt thank you. You had many more things and many more places that you could be, but you chose to join and listen to this session. So thank you so much. So I think I'll just start. Domala, can I start with my presentation?
Yes, Ajahn Rimala.
Okay. Is my screen visible to all of you? Okay, thank you. So today, as Domala said, we are going to talk about there is a text called Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Bodhicaryavatara by Bodhisattva Shantideva. Today we are going to talk about chapter 4, Conscientiousness. And this is going to be the brief agenda. We'll just start with doing a short motivation. We'll just review the session that we did last time. Then we will go through in detail on chapter 4. We will have a short discussion and reflection session. And then we'll have some time for question and answers if you might have some. And we will end today's session with dedication. So let's just begin with a proper motivation, thinking about all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Gurus, and teachers, and all the beings who chose to help all other sentient beings over their own benefit. Enthused by great compassion, who taught the immaculate Dharma, to dispel all perverted views, to you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddhahood in my heart. And before I begin, excuse me for a little bad throat that I have, but I hope I'm audible and I'm clear. Okay. So in chapter 3, we basically talked about Bodhisattva, Bodhichitta, and how is the structure of this text given as such. So the chapter 1 talks about the benefits of the awakening mind, and in the chapter 2, from the chapter 2 onwards, chapter 1 and 2 talk about the 7 limbs, which were homage, offering, and then obeisance or prostrations, purification. So this was all part of chapter 1 and 2. Then in chapter 3, we basically had the other 3 limbs, the 7 limbs, as part of the 7 limbs puja, rejoicing, beseeching the Buddhas, and the dedication. As I said, the structure of the book, there are total 10 chapters in it. And the structure of book mainly comprises of the 6 practices or the Bodhisattva practices that the Bodhisattva enrolls in, and that is about the 6 perfections. Generosity is not, there is not any one particular chapter dedicated to generosity, but Bodhisattva Shantideva talks about generosity in mostly all of his coming chapters. Then chapter 3 and 4 and 5 are dedicated to ethical discipline. We did chapter 3 last time, and we're going to do chapter 4 today. Chapter 6 is on patience, then joy and enthusiasm, then samadhi or meditation, and then chapter 9 is on wisdom. And chapter 10 is the dedication given by Bodhisattva Shantideva. So chapter 3, we spoke about basically rejoicing, that how can we increase our merits, accumulate merits just by rejoicing. Even if you do not have the means to do generosity or to go about and do big things, even small things that you do make a difference. And in that, if somebody else is doing some good deed, no matter how small it might be, no matter how insignificant it might appear to you, if you rejoice in the good deeds that others are doing, you'd also accumulate merits. And then chapter 3 talks about the aspirations, that what does the aspiration of becoming a bodhisattva or the bodhichitta, what is a bodhichitta aspiration? What does it entail? Then we take the aspirational vow, which is a part of all the Moon and Vajra meditations that we do, and those verses that we take the aspirational vow are from the 3rd chapter from Bodhisattva Shantideva's text. And then rejoicing and reinforcing the application of bodhicitta. So this is what we did in chapter 3. Now starting with chapter 4, which is conscientiousness. So this, in summary, it is like do what is right and not just what is easy. So being attentive, being careful. So in a lot of other texts or commentaries on this particular text, conscientiousness is translated as carefulness. So be careful, be conscientious, the attentive and responsible implementations of principle of adopting and rejecting. So once you have generated this mind of bodhicitta, once you have taken this vow, then what? Then what next? You have decided that okay, you are going to go ahead and devote your life to the benefit of others. But how do you maintain it? How do you ensure that you don't lose this aspiration in the midway? What do you do? What all has to be done? What all has to be rejected? So that principle of adopting and rejecting, it's what this talks about. So the next 2 chapters, as I said, chapter 4 and 5, deal with the perfection of ethical discipline through carefulness and vigilant introspection. When I say carefulness, it is conscientiousness. So you be careful, you be mindful of what you're doing. You understand what are the things that a bodhisattva should do, adopt, and what is it that they should refrain from? What should they reject? And vigilant introspection, which we dealt in the chapter 5, this talks about how to apply it again and again. And while you are doing it, how to introspect, how to inspect that whether you are on the right path, whether you have not strayed yourself. And as I said in my last session, this whole text is Bodhisattva Shantideva like an inner dialogue. He's talking to himself that what should I be doing? He's not doing it to kind of teach others or tell others that this is what you should be doing. He's not doing that. He begins by saying that I'm doing this for my own mind to get accustomed to, for my own mind to know that okay, what do I have to do, what I don't have to do, and all these reasonings that Bodhisattva Shantideva is coming with this in this chapter. He is talking to himself. He's talking to his own afflictions. He's talking to his own mind. He's trying to convince his own self that, okay, how do I need to deal with these afflictions? And it is not just based on some faith. Faith is obviously there, but this is faith based on facts. This is not just faith based on a blind belief that, okay, because Buddha Shakyamuni has said it, that's the reason I have to follow it. It is not like that. Buddha Shakyamuni himself said that do not follow me just because of you have reverence for me, not just because of you have faith on me. Just like a goldsmith tests the gold by cutting, rubbing, burning. You test my teachings too. And if they appeal to you, if you find them correct, then follow them. So in this beautiful text, in this precious text, Bodhisattva Shantideva is giving all these reasonings to himself and giving us a lot of thought, a food of thought, a lot of thoughts to think upon, reflect upon, and learn that how can we kind of adopt it. So as we say that Buddhism, as I say, or we believe that Buddhism is not about just about a religion. It is not about a dogma. It is not a something that you can say, okay, oh, I'm following Buddhism. It is a way of life. As His Holiness says, you can, if you are a Hindu, be a good Hindu. If you are a Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you are a good Christian, if you are a Christian, be a good Christian. If you are a Sikh, be a good Sikh. These teachings, these reasonings is something that everybody can adopt in their daily lifestyle. And even if you feel that bodhisattva attitude or this particular wish or aspiration is far away from me, but still, if you go through this text, you go through these verses, these reasonings, these texts, you will get to understand that there is so much that we in our daily lives can imbibe upon reading this text, learning from this text, reflecting on this text and the verses as we go ahead. So as Arya Nagarjuna said, as earth is basis for the still world and its moving occupants, so discipline is said to be ground of all good qualities. So they say that as earth is the basis for everything that exists on earth, discipline, ethical discipline, is the ground of all good qualities. Everything is based on a good foundation of a good ethical discipline practice. Likewise, Acharya Vasubandhu also says, abide in discipline, study and reflect, and give yourself to meditation. So there are three things that we need to do, three kind of wisdom. Wisdom of learning, wisdom of reflection, and wisdom of meditation. So all these great masters have come and said that abide in discipline. First be disciplined, create a foundation where you have ethical discipline. You learn, you study, you reflect upon them, and then you get yourself accustomed to it by doing the meditation. And it is also said in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, study, discipline, patience, giving, whatever can be qualified as virtue. The root of all them is carefulness itself, for they are gained thereby, the Sugata has said. So then one might wonder that why so much of emphasis is being put on carefulness, why it is so important to have the foundation as ethical discipline. Why is it so important to have that? So in brief, what I would say is that ethical discipline teaches you what to adopt, what to reject. And even in the 8 verses of mind training, it says that in all my deeds may I probe into my mind, and as and when mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I quickly confront them and avert them. And this is so it means that everything, this whole text, whole Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism is about that you subdue your mind, you tame your mind, you go inwards. So there are 2 factors which bring about any of the afflictions, external and internal. It's up to you. External, there are too many. They are not in your hand. You cannot control them. So you focus on the internal, you go inwards, you see, and you subdue your mind. So with a disciplined mind, to know what to adopt, what to reject, you will know, you will be more careful in terms of your actions, your karma, and that is what follows, that is what decides, that is what causes and conditions begin, and when they ripen, we experience them. So that is why carefulness is very, very important. There are very, very different words or meaning of consciousness and carefulness, and they all lead to like self-discipline, self-efficiency, orderliness, dutifulness, cautiousness, achievement, striving oriented, stimulus, careful. They're all these words. So we mean that it's not we see that it is not just Bodhisattva Shantideva who's saying that, okay, be careful. It is not about only these masters who are saying that be careful about your actions and not just of your speech and your body, but of also of mind. So be careful about your actions of body, speech, and mind. So we'll start with the chapter 4. It's on reflecting on precepts to be implemented and preventing the attitude of bodhicitta from weakening. So in the 3rd chapter, we generated we took the aspirational bodhichitta vow, and we generated the aspiration of awakening bodhichitta. So once we have generated it, what should we do? What should we implement to prevent that, okay, it does not weaken? So having firmly seized the awakening mind in this way, a conqueror's son or daughter must never waver, always should he exert himself to never stray from his practice. So when we have firmly seized this awakening mind, it means that, okay, we are saying that, okay, this is something I really, really need to do. You are convinced that this is for my happiness. This is what I need to follow and do. You have taken a vow. So once you have taken a vow on this, then you should know that, then you should give it your best that you never waver from this attitude of bodhicitta. You should always exert that you do not stray away from this practice. In the case of reckless actions or of deeds not well considered, although a promise may have been made, it is fit to reconsider whether I should do them or not. So, in normal circumstances, when we take a vow or we make a promise, it is probably fit to come back to contemplate again that whether what I'm doing or what I have given my promise to, is it going to be correct? Is it right? It is not right. Should I be doing it, not doing it? You weigh pros and cons. But that is in the normal circumstances. But how can I ever withdraw from what has been examined by the great wisdom of the Buddhas and their sons, and even many times by me myself? So Bodhisattva Shantideva is questioning himself that this is not a normal circumstance that I have taken this Bodhisattva vow. So how can I withdraw? How can I withdraw from this? To which Bodhisattvas, Buddhas, all gurus, they have examined it time and again. They have proven that it brings you happiness. It's proven that this is what is which brings everybody happiness. So which something which has been examined by all of these Buddhas and their sons, meaning the Bodhisattvas who have generated this vow, the practitioners, and even by many times by me myself. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying that I myself have taken this vow many times for the benefit of all sentient beings. So how can I ever withdraw? So the one has to constantly remind oneself that you've taken this vow. And for what? So all the reasons, all the benefits of that awakening mind that we spoke about in the earlier sessions, you recall all of them. So if having made such a promise, I do not put it into action, then by deceiving every living being, what kind of rebirth shall I take? So when you take a bodhisattva vow, it is for the benefit of all sentient beings. That means each and every living being. We say, I'll not say this planet Earth because we have many more galaxies and everything. And when we say that for every sentient being, it is for every sentient being everywhere. So if I taken this promise and if I don't put it into action, if I don't practice it, if I let it weaken, that means that I'm deceiving each and every living being to whom I gave this hope that, okay, I will take care of you. I'm going to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So just by deceiving one person one time, if somebody can have a bad rebirth or bear the consequences. So if I'm putting every living being, deceiving them, cheating them, then what kind of rebirth shall I take? If it has been taught by the Buddha that he who does not give away the smallest thing he once intended to give will take rebirth as a hungry ghost. So there are a lot of sutras where it has been mentioned that if you do not give what you once intend to give, then you will take a rebirth as a hungry ghost, or you will take birth in hell and things like that. So I think from where this is from a bodhisattva's point of view, who's taken the aspirational bodhisattva vow, or trying to engage in the bodhisattva vow. So this means that if you have decided, okay, that you're going to give something to somebody, it's not about that you're still contemplating or you have not. So once you have decided that you're going to do something or you're going to help somebody, and if you then withdraw because of some other selfish motive or reason, then that is supposedly a very negative karma that you're accumulating. Then if I should deceive all beings after having sincerely invited them, to the unsurpassable bliss. Shall I take a happy rebirth? So Bodhisattva Shantideva is again talking to himself that even if taking a thought back of giving something, a small thing, or just food to somebody, if I take it back, then that means that I might go into a rebirth of a hungry ghost. So when I have taken a vow to benefit all sentient beings, and if I then deceive all these beings, so most likely I will not take a happy rebirth. Only the omniscient can discern the manner of the action of those who give up the waking mind but are freed. It is beyond the scope of ordinary thought. So here Bodhisattva Shantideva is reflecting that it's only the Buddha who has the right to judge. It's only the Buddha who is the omniscient one who can really know the actions of karma and the fruition of karma. Then how and when, why something is happening. Because as we discussed last time, it is not about a single cause or condition that brings about something to happen or the experience that we get of pleasure, happiness, sadness, anger, aversion, sickness, illness, aging, anything. It is all bound by karma. And karma is a very, very hidden phenomena. So it's only the omniscient one who can know that even who give up the awakening mind are freed. In this context, there is a story I like. It is mentioned in one of the commentaries on this particular text that that Shariputra, he took a vow in his many lives before. He took a bodhisattva vow, and as he was a king in one of his lives, and there was a priest who came in and asked for a arm of his right hand, and Shariputra in his that life, he cut his right hand and gave it to the priest. But after cutting it the right hand, because he lost the right hand, he gave the offering using his left hand, and the priest became unhappy that this is no way, this is you're showing disrespect to me by giving an offering through your left hand. So so Shariputra in that life felt very sad and he gave up on his bodhisattva vow. So it is said that if you give up on your bodhisattva vow, it is one of the greatest downfalls or the root downfalls for a bodhisattva to give up the bodhisattva vow. But we know that Shariputra later attained enlightenment. He had generated the waking mind, so he does that. So here is that. So I think this is what Bodhisattva Shantideva in this particular verse is addressing. That even if you find certain examples or you hear about certain examples where you feel that somebody has given up on his Bodhisattva vow and still gone to attain enlightenment, how is that possible? So Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying, and he's telling rather himself, that you should focus on yourself. See what you are capable of, and it's a leave the judgment on such things to the omniscient ones who know everything, who know the karma in and out, who know the very hidden phenomena, that why such a thing is happening. So in certain commentaries, it is written that Shariputra, he later again took the bodhisattva vow in some other lives, and this is how he attained enlightenment later on. But that is something that we're not discussing here. So then verse number 8, this for a bodhisattva is the heaviest of downfalls. For should it ever happen, the welfare of all will be weakened. So they say, why do you think that if you give up, you took a bodhisattva vow and then you gave it up, then why is it considered as the heaviest of downfalls? Because when you are saying that you are going to become a Buddha for the benefit of each and every sentient being, leaving none aside, when you give up that vow, you're giving up on all these sentient beings. So if you become a Buddha, you could have been like the sun, the cloud, which rains and give benefit to each and every sentient being. But you are depriving those beings of that benefit. So that is why after taking an aspirational or a proper bodhisattva vow, if you give it up, that is supposed to be the heaviest of downfalls. And by Bodhisattva Shantideva only, he written another text called Shiksha Samuchaya, and in that he has mentioned the 18 downfalls of the bodhisattva, that what could be the greatest and the other downfalls for a bodhisattva. And should others for a single moment hinder or obstruct his wholesome deeds. By weakening the welfare of all, there will be no end to their rebirth in lower states. So it is not just that the Bodhisattva himself gives it up for some reason. If there is even a single instant or moment which is needed to complete an action, if in that amount of period of action somebody does something to obstruct any benefit that this bodhisattva might be intending to do for some person, and they create an obstruction or they create some doubt so that that wholesome deed does not happen, then there is no end to their rebirth in lower state. It is said that that one moment of that negative karma of stopping or creating obstruction in a bodhisattva doing a good deed can lead to a person having lower birth realms in the hell realms for even kalpas and maybe even beyond that. For if my being is impaired by destroying the joy of even one creature, then what need is there to mention destroying the joy of creatures vast as space? Thus, those who have the force of an awakening mind, as well as the force of falling from it, stay revolving within cyclic existence, and for a long time are hindered in reaching the bodhisattva levels. So, they say that those who have the force and awakening mind and they are in the cyclic existence, if they force themselves or if they somehow fall from it, then the time that they would have to wait to become a Buddha or to reach certain enlightenment levels or realization levels, it will be a very, very long time. And in the commentary, there is a incident which is mentioned that Saint Telopa, he had the he had the realizations, the merits to get special realizations in 7 days, to reach that level of realization in 7 days. But because he took some sesame seeds secretly without telling anybody, so that was a negative karma that he did. So because of those little sesame seeds that Saint Tilopa took, what realization that he could have achieved in 7 days, he had to wait for 7 months to get that. So it is said that any kind of negative action that we engage into, it is not this that it is a tiny negative action that I did. It is not going to cause me much harm. And if you think like that, then think about this way that karma multiplies. And it is said that even a small action, a negative action, can result into a multitude of you getting experiences which are not good. Therefore, just as I have promised, shall I respectfully accord my actions. If from now on I make no effort, I shall descend from lower to lower states. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is again reminding himself, just as I promised, I will be careful about each and every action that I do. And if now I do not make this effort to do what is right, then it is a certainty that I will go on to have lower and lower rebirths in my future lifetimes. Observing the precepts to be implemented without relaxing one's diligence. So it is like the precepts that you take as a bodhisattva. So you have to be careful, be diligent, evaluate each and every action of body, speech, and mind. Is it good? Is it going to benefit? So as Venerable Geshe-la talks about that, most of the time we are not aware what to speak, when to speak, how much to speak, who to speak to, how to speak to. And this is just about the karma of speech. But if you apply it to your body and mind also, then you would know that we need to be really, really careful in each and every action that we do of body, speech, and mind. Although for the benefit of every creature, countless Buddhas have passed by, yet I was not an object of their care because of my own mistakes. So sometimes a lot of people get into this that there have been so many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but still there is suffering has not gone away. We still find suffering, and maybe we find more and more ways of suffering day by day. There are more ways, means of suffering, more diseases, more kind of different problems that we tend to face. So it is so Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying that it is not this that the Buddhas have not wanted to help me. It is not this that the Bodhisattvas didn't want to help me. It is my own karma. It is my own actions because of which so far I have not been a person for whom I get a benefit from the Buddhas. So they say that the Buddha's love and his care, his or her care, and their love for each and every sentient being is like an enormous sky from where the rain is falling, and the rain falls on the ground, same for every person there, every being there. But we see that just as the rain falls, at certain places you will see certain saplings or certain plants, they start growing after the rain stops. But at some places, no matter how much of the rain falls, you do not see a sapling growing there. So it is not that there is some problem or the Buddha is being biased in loving you, in taking care of you or blessing you. It is our own mistakes, it is our own karmas which is stopping us from benefiting from these great beings. And if I continue to act like this, again and again shall I undergo suffering in unhappy realms, sickness, bondage, laceration, and shedding of blood. So he again reminds himself that if I'm not careful in my actions of body, speech, and mind, then I will keep going into unhappy states of sickness, aging, rebirth, death, and be in this cyclic existence forever. So then, after this, Bodhisattva Shantideva reflects on the benefits of having a precious human body, a precious human life. So this is something that His Holiness stresses a lot, and precious human life reflection, meditation is one of the preliminary practices that one needs to engage in to reflect and start thinking that we have got this precious human life. Are we utilizing it to the fullest? What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be having a precious human life? Human life, yes, there are 8 billion humans there, but does everybody has a precious human life? So what is considered a precious human life? His Holiness says that each and every morning you wake up, you should be grateful that you have been born as a human. You understand the difficulty with which one gets a precious human life, and then take a vow that I'm not going to waste it. But what does it mean that I'm not going to waste it? What does it mean by having a precious human life? It says that you should have the causes and conditions around you to meet dharma and the teachers. You should have causes and conditions where you are not afflicted by your external conditions in such a manner that even if you meet a good teacher, you meet with dharma, you cannot practice. Like for somebody in Russia and somewhere where Kyiv, their the cities have been bombed and everything. Even if they have they have this human life. Even if they get the teachings, even if they meet with good teachers, they meet with dharma. Do they have the external conditions conducive enough to make them practice? Conducive enough to think and reflect, learn, reflect, and meditate on dharma? So we need to think about that. We having this precious human body reflect that how is it that we are different from others, how we are different from other beings. We can take conscious decisions, we can decide to be mindful, we can decide to be careful, we can think about how to behave, not react but respond. Most of the time we see that beings, they respond. It is not about just reacting. They react, they do not respond because it comes as a basic instinct. This is what we have been conditioned for beginless time. But we, in this precious human body, we can make that conscious decision. We can make that conscious decision to learn to how to respond and not react. So, verse 15, if the rising of Tathagata, faith, the attainment of human body, and my being fit to cultivate virtue are scarce, when they will be one again. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is reflecting that by his some very good virtues, he's attained this human body by the blessings of Buddhas. And it is very scarce to get this human body to this life, to get a precious human life. So he's asking himself that I've got this now, but am I sure that I'm going to get it in my next life and next life? And maybe I am doing good karmas in this life. I get a precious human body for my next 10 lives. But what about after that? I can I guarantee I'm going to get those precious human birth again? So if now having got it, how can I be sure that I'll get it again? Although today I'm healthy, well nourished, and unafflicted, life is momentary and deceptive. The body is like an object on loan for but a minute. So he's saying that today I'm healthy. He's reflecting on the precious human life conditions that enables him to make the best use of this precious human life. He says he has good health, he has good food, he has a place to stay, and unafflicted meaning that he does not have an external condition in terms of the surroundings and the place that he is in. He was in a monastery at that time. So it is not this that like, there are too many external factors. He is a monk, he is an ordained monk, so he does not have too many external conditions, relationships, bounds which bind him or pull him towards the afflictions. Life is momentary and deceptive. The body is like an object on loan for but a minute. So he's reflecting on impermanence. That we might say that, okay, today I'm very healthy. I'm not going to die tomorrow. I have another 20 years, 30 years. I have a lot of time. I'll I'll do it then. But nobody is sure. When you reflect on impermanence, they say death is something which is certain. It is certain. It will come. It is not this that if a person has cancer, he's dying and we are not dying. We never know. That person whom we are feeling pity for, whom we are thinking that, okay, this person has cancer, he's probably dying. Maybe at the terminal stage, he's dying, he's going to die. And we feel pity, we feel compassion also. We feel taking care, we feel like taking care of that person. But do we know about our next moment? When reflecting on impermanence, it is kind of said that while you are taking the breath in, you never know that when you breathe out, is it going to be in this body or in your next rebirth? So we do not know. We live as if today we are healthy, we have everything. So at least, okay, yes, we are going to die. Yeah, that's a reality, I know. But I know it's not today. But nobody can be certain about the time. So he's telling himself, reflecting on impermanence, that this body is like an object on loan. You leave this, you take another one. And it could be matter of minutes, the smallest moment of time that you have this body left with you. So why do you waste time? And with behavior such as this, I shall not win a human body again. And if this human form is not attained, there will be solely evil and no virtue. So he says that the actions that I'm doing right now, if they're not in accord with the dharma, if they are not in accord with the ethical discipline that I need to follow, then surely I'm not going to get a human body form again every time. And is only going to create evil for me. This is only going to create suffering for me. And this is not going to create any merits for me. So verse 18, if when I have the chance to live a wholesome life, my actions are not wholesome, then what shall I be able to do when confused by the misery of the lower realms? He then goes on to reflecting that now that I have a precious human rebirth, and I have all the opportunity, I have all the teachings, I have all the conditions to do wholesome deeds. If I don't do them, even after taking the Bodhisattva vow, after having met with every condition which is required to do this wholesome deeds, if I still don't do it, so if I go into a lower realm later on, I will be confused with the miseries. I will not have the time to think about doing wholesome deeds because you are so much caught up with the miseries. So while I have the chance, while I have this precious human life, I have the time, Why not I engage in the wholesome deeds now? Then Bodhisattva Shantideva reflects on the difficulty of escaping from the lower realms. And if I commit no wholesome deeds there, but readily amass much evil, then for 100 million eons I shall not even hear the words a happy life. For the very reasons the Buddha has said, that like for a turtle to insert its neck into a yoke adrift upon the vast ocean, it is extremely hard to attain the human state. So there are many texts, sutras, where it is mentioned that how difficult it is to get this human state, this human body. And in one of the sutras, Buddha has mentioned that if you kind of imagine that this whole earth is like an ocean, and in that ocean there is a turtle which is 100, 200 meters down in the ocean, and there is a yoke. There is only one single yoke with a hole, which is on the top of the ocean, which is floating, and that too it is being getting adrift by the waves. And then in many hundred, 200 thousands of years, that turtle decides to come up and takes his neck out. Then the chance of that turtle to put his neck into that yoke, one can imagine how grim or tiny, teeny, weeny chance that there is that is going to happen. So Buddha has given that analogy that it is that difficult to get a precious human birth. I don't know about other religions, but in Hinduism also they say that you get a human birth after taking birth around 84,000 lakh times. I mean, just imagine that after so many, if you believe on those numbers, may not be true, I don't know, but like that is the belief that even in Hinduism they have, that it is so difficult to get this precious human rebirth. So if you happen to read Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chenmo, in that also it is mentioned that how difficult it is to get this precious human rebirth. In that it is mentioned that if you imagine that at the base of the ocean, the sand, as many sand particles are there, if you imagine that, okay, if you put those particles as same as a number of sentient beings on that ocean bed, the sand, that number of particles, and if you take this little finger and you put your hand there and you take that dust, that is the chance, or the people out of that ocean bed dust particles who have the chance to get a human rebirth in their next lives. So if you can think that how difficult it is to get this precious human rebirth, we will analyze that, okay, this is so rare that we have this birth. And not just having this birth, having met with teachings, having met with good teachers, having met with dharma, having met with the conditions where you have the time, you have the health, you have the knowledge, you have the brain, the health, everything, all the conditions where you are introduced to these precious text teachings. Even if still we waste it, then just imagine, remember the grain of sand on the tip of your finger. Only those many beings get to have a higher rebirth. So if, going to verse number 21, if even by the evil of one instant an aeon may be spent in the deepest hell, then because of the evil I have gathered since beginless night, what need is to mention my not going to a happy realm? But having experienced merely that rebirth in hell, I shall still not be liberated. For while it is being experienced, other evil will be extensively produced. So sometimes some people they discuss that, okay, if I'm going through the miseries here in this life, I'm purifying a lot of negative karmas, and this will surely help me take a good rebirth because I'm done with the fruiting of my negative karmas. I've had so many problems in this life, so they're all over. Now, from here onward, is going to be good life or a precious human life. But the second, no. While you are exhausting your previous karmas, you're accumulating new ones each and every time. And they say that the karmas that you have gathered since beginnerless time, and they ripen. There is, as they say, only Buddhas know that what all causes and conditions come about together, so that we experience happiness, sadness, whatever we experience. It might be the teeny mini smallest thing. It comes through the fruitioning of some karmas, which come about when innumerable number of causes and conditions and the previous karma fruitioning happens. So it is not just a single cause. It is a very complicated web, an intricate web of karmas that cause that one single moment of happiness or sadness. So even if you think that, okay, I have purified everything now, from now on, I'm going to get good human rebirth, you cannot be sure. They say that there is a sequence in which these karma ripen. Some of your more forceful karmas, they say the definite karmas, they ripen. Then they say that at the time of death, your next life is decided mostly by the most powerful or forceful definite karmas that you have done. Then the karmas that you have done very near to the death period. That is why it is mentioned that when somebody is passing away, that particular moment, that time, that period is very important, because that helps decide your immediate next birth. So that happens. And then your habits. They say that even after becoming arhat, when you got rid of your afflictions, you become an arhat. Still, while the body remains, some arhats, they kind of swing on the trees. Why? Because they have this habit. So that is what habits take form. You do not realize they become a part of us. They are instinctive. So if you're not careful, if you're not about mindful of each and every action of yours, you let some small thing become a habit, it might become bad or worse later on. So it's not this that if I take birth in hell right now, after this birth, I've purified all that negative karma. Now from there on, it's all okay. No, you never know. You can be in the hell realm for a million of years. So that is what the Bodhisattva Shantideva is telling himself, that you do not lose that focus. You do not lose that mind, which puts all the focus and energy in seeing on what the actions are. What is it that I have promised to do? What is the vow that I have taken? And I do not weaken from that. Then reflecting on the importance of striving in virtue. Why is it important? Why it is such so much of emphasis is given on doing good deeds, accumulating virtues, striving in virtue, follow ethical discipline? Why is it said that? So if when having found leisure such as this, I do not attune myself to what is wholesome, there could be no greater deception and there could be no greater folly. And if having understood this, I still foolishly continue to be slothful, when the hour of death arrives, tremendous grief will rear its head. Then if my body blazes for a long time in the unbearable flames of hell, inevitably my mind will be tormented by the fires of unendurable remorse. Having found by some coincidence this beneficial state that is so hard to find, if now, while able to discriminate, I once again am led into the hells, then as though I were hypnotized by a spell, I shall reduce this mind to nothing. Even I do not know what is causing me confusion. What is there dwelling inside me? So is an expert that I have copied from this beautiful text, the Nectar of Manjushri's speech, which is a commentary on Bodhicaryavatara. So there is this verse mentioned here and this line. So I'll just read it here, and then when we get to the discussion and reflection section, we'll discuss about it more. That we do not grasp things, we do not understand when things are shown to us. Great balls of iron are our hearts, great lumps of flint. We are mindless. There's the honest truth. We think we will practice dharma. We will be disciplined. We'll study, reflect, meditate. But the fact is that we don't. We are helplessly out of control. What is it that is making us so stupid? For sure, there must be something that we have failed to recognize. We should ask ourselves again and again, what is it? So that is what Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying here, that after giving so much of reasonings, after knowing what happens, what will happen in this life, what opportunity I have, and what I'm going to let slip from my hand. If I let this, what is going to happen? But still, we know, okay, we have to do this. Everybody knows we should do good karmas. We should refrain from bad karmas. Lying is bad. We should not be lying. But then, time and again, one small white lie, it has not causing harm to anybody. What harm is there? It's our habits. They just kind of take us away in their flow. We do not even realize that we are slave to them. We do not even realize that these afflictions, which are so much of inside us, how, I would say, how incapable we are in terms of recognizing them, acknowledging them, knowing that, okay, we do not have our own free will to act. It is these afflictions which make us act. But still, even if we know consciously, even if we have read about it, we still fail again and again at times to not follow or do what we intended to do. So why we do that, I think we'll come to that in the discussion and reflection section. Then reflecting on the afflictive emotions, that how they are not good. What are the defects of these afflictive emotions? Although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither any arms or legs and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I been used like a slave by them? For while they dwell within my mind, at their pleasure they cause me harm. Yet I patiently endure them without any anger. But this is an inappropriate and shameful time for patience. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is again saying all this to himself, to his mind, to be convinced himself that these afflictions as attachment, very severe attachment, hatred, aversions, anger, jealousy, all these, they do not have any physical manifestation. They don't have any arms or legs. They do not come out with a knife to kill me. But I know that I've been used as a slave by them. I just given to my anger. I just given to my afflictions. Like this. They say that if you're getting angry, will you pause for a while and say, okay, he did that to me. He's saying this to me. It's not good. So I think I should retaliate. I should get angry. We do not do that. It just comes so spontaneously. So spontaneously. And once in that moment of anger, then that one moment of anger, it came spontaneous, but then it becomes a series of things. It starts with some bodily actions, some speech actions, and then mind, everything. It just converts into unwholesome actions of body, speech, and mind. So what Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying, that you are letting these afflictions, these enemies take over you. And you are patiently enduring them. You're not questioning them. You're not putting antidotes to check them. Then this is not a time to be patient. This is a time to act against your own afflictions. Should even all the gods and anti-gods rise up against me as enemies, they could not place me in the roaring fires of deepest hell. But the mighty foe, these disturbing conceptions, in a moment can cast me amidst those flames, which, when met, will cause not even the ashes of the kings of mountains to remain. So he's saying that even if all the gods, all the anti-gods, all his enemies in all their form, if they rage a war against him, they can cause him bodily harm, they can cause him financial harm, they can cause him any number of harm. But still, it will not be equivalent to the harm that his own disturbing conceptions and afflictions can cause him. So he's saying he's of the king of mountains to remain. What he's saying is that the flames, the fire of the afflictions that burn you, that the hell fire, first it says that it is 7 times more powerful and destructive. And they say that with that fire, the Mount Meru, which is the considered to be the king of mountains, it can bring that Mount Meru to burn like ashes and just reduce to ashes. So that is the harm that our own afflictions can cause us. All other enemies are incapable of remaining for such a length of time, as can my disturbing concepts. The long-term enemy with neither beginning nor end. If I agreeably honor and entrust myself to others, they will bring me benefit and happiness. But if I entrust myself to these disturbing conceptions, in future they will bring only misery and harm. So he's saying that all the other enemies, they will not stay for this limitless period of time which has not a beginning and nor an end. From life after life, we are building and these habits, these tendencies, these negative karmas over and over again, and they will keep happening. And he says that if I give something, if I take care of somebody, if I take care of their happiness, if I take care of them, they give me happiness, they will take care of me. But these if negative emotions of mine, these disturbing conception of mine, they are only going to bring me misery and harm. While in cyclic existence, how can be joyful and unafraid? If in my heart I readily prepare a place for this incessant enemy of long duration, the sole cause for the increase of all that harms me. And how shall I ever have happiness if in a net of attachment within my mind there dwell the guardians of the prison of cyclic existence, their disturbing conceptions that become and tormentors in hell? So he's giving various explanations and various reasonings to himself that how he should understand that it is his own afflictions which are his biggest enemy and not anything else. So then once we get into this path, we know it is not going to be easy. There are going to be a lot of hardships dealing with those afflictions, dealing with our own habits, some good, some bad. So increasing the good habits, getting rid of the bad habits. So there are going to be hardships in the way. So how we put up with those hardships when we start abandoning the afflictions? Therefore, as long as this enemy is not slain with certainty before my very eyes, I shall never give up exerting myself towards that end. Having become angry at someone who caused only slight and short-lived harm, self-important people will not sleep until their enemy is overcome. So he's saying that even if I'm harmed by a person in a very small manner, I get into this rage, I get into this thing to take revenge, to make sure that that person, I have taken care of that person who caused me harm. So when this enemy of mine is causing me so much harm, then I have to remind myself again and again till I reach the end. I have to keep practicing. I have to keep doing hard work, smart work till I reach that end where I see these enemies slain before my own eyes. And if while engaged in a violent battle, vigorously desiring to conquer those whose disturbing conceptions will naturally bring them suffering at death, men discard the pain of being pierced by spears and arrows and will not withdraw until the day is won. So he's talking about the soldiers who fight in the battlefields. They are struck by arrows, spears, guns these days, and so much of physical, mental suffering, torture. But still, they disregard that pain because they have their goal that, okay, we have to save our country. We have to fight this battle for our country. And we are not going to give up till it is won. So they bear all those hardships. Then what need to mention that I should not be faint-hearted and slothful, even if I am caused many hundreds of sufferings? When now I strive to definitely overcome my natural enemies, these disturbing conceptions, which are the constant source of my misery. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is asking himself that when people inflict so much of harm on themselves to make sure that the future is bright, good for themselves, for their family, for their children, for their country, then when I go through the hardships of abandoning these afflictions, I should remind myself again and again that I am battling my biggest enemies. And this is all worth it because I have the goal of Buddhahood. I have the goal of benefiting each and every sentient being. So that is the way we bring about and go about doing this. Verse 39. If even scars inflicted by meaningless enemies are worn upon the body like ornaments, then why is suffering a cause of harm to me, who impeccably strives to fulfill the great purpose? If fishermen, hunters, and farmers, thinking merely of their own livelihood, endure the sufferings of heat and cold, why am I not patient for the sake of the world's joy? So he's again asking that if I am going through these hardships, there are these fishermen, hunters, farmers who go, whether it's scorching sun, whether it's raining, whether it's very rocky, whether they have slippers in their feet, not in the feet. They take all those hardships upon themselves to earn their livelihood for their family. They endure so much. So it's if just for the family, for earning a livelihood, these people take so much of pain on themselves happily, then why am I not patient to sake all the miseries or the hardship for the sake of world's joy? So then he talks about how emotional defilements are to be abandoned. When I promised to liberate all those beings dwelling in the 10 directions as far as the end of space from their disturbing conceptions, I myself was not yet freed from mine. Thus unaware of even my own capacity, was it not somewhat crazy to have spoken like that? But as this is so, I must never withdraw from vanquishing my disturbing conceptions. And to do this will be my sole obsession. Holding a strong grudge, I shall meet them in battle. But disturbing conceptions such as these destroy disturbing conceptions and for the time being are not to be abandoned. So here what he's saying is that I will always remember that these disturbing conceptions are my biggest enemy and I need to be free of them. And when I took a vow that I will become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, when I took that courageous vow, at that time, I was also not free from these afflictions myself. So it was very courageous indeed to take that vow upon me. But now that I have taken, I will meet with these afflictions in the battlefield as if I'm dealing with these enemies in the battlefield. And in the last line of verse 43, destroy disturbing conceptions and for the time being are not to be abandoned. So at times, some people they argue that this passion, that is this wish, while we are still working towards to getting on the path, this passion to do it, is it not also an affliction? So here Bodhisattva Shantideva says that, like, let's say there is an example that okay, you are planting a mango tree, and that tree will one day give fruits. So let's say it's the biggest, the most expensive mango, Alfonso or some other. I think there are certain mango varieties which are even lakhs of rupees for a piece of mango. So once you plant that tree, at that time you put a fence around that sapling. You take care of it. You let it grow to a height where it will not get, you know, die before it becomes a tree. So this is not a time to think that eventually I have to let go of this aspiration also, or this is also something which is afflictive. Let's not think on those lines at that moment now. Right now, we are not that ready. We are not a bodhisattva as yet. So for the time, do not think that, okay, this is also an attachment. This is also an aversion towards afflictions and attachment to my being a Buddha. Let's not think on those lines today. Right now, it's not that time. That time will come where you have to, as part of the cognitive obscurations, you have to abandon all in in terms of that. But that time is not right now. It would be better for me to be burned, to have my head cut off and be killed, rather than ever going down to those ever present disturbing conceptions. Common enemies, when expelled from one country, simply retire and settle down in another. Though when their strength is recovered, then they return. But the way of this enemy, my disturbing conceptions, is not similar in this respect. Deluded, disturbing conceptions, when forsaken by the eye of wisdom and expelled from my mind, where will you go? Where will you dwell in order to be able to injure me again? But weak minded, I have been reduced to making no effort. So he says that otherwise, if you have an enemy and you fight a war and you expel that person out of your country, or if even if some thieves have entered your house, you expel them from your house, you bolt the door, and you're free from that affliction. But once they, that thief or those people that you have expelled from your country, they gain their strength, they get more army, they get more ammunition, and then they attack you. But The disturbing conception is not similar. They do not go out or stay someplace else to gain their strength and then come back. They're always with us. But if I decide and I fight you and I expel you from within me, from my mind, if I get rid of all these afflictions, they will have no place to hide. They will have no place to regain their strength. Then how will they come back and injure you again? So remember that once you kick them out, this enemy for good from the root, it is gone. It will not come back. Then the last two verses of this chapter, if these, that is, to scrutinize the nature of afflictions. So having said this, that okay, I need to be careful about my actions. We have talked about afflictions, afflictions, afflictions. But how do I go about seeing or dealing with this nature of afflictions? So verse 47 says, if these disturbing conceptions do not exist within the objects, the sense organs, between the two, nor elsewhere, then where do they exist and how do they harm the world? They are like an illusion, thus I should dispel the fear within my heart and strive resolutely for wisdom. For no real reason, why should I suffer so much in hell? So this is what Bodhisattva Shantideva is reminding us about the ultimate reality. That when we see the ultimate truth, the reality, then we will have no fear of these afflictions and it will be easier to get rid of them. But at this point of time, when we are just taken the vow, we are on the path, how do we handle them? So he said, you examine, you scrutinize those nature of afflictions. Begin with, okay, this affliction, where is it? Where is it coming from? Okay, this affliction is coming. So it says, if something is coming from the object, so is it that that object has the power to create that happiness in you or to create that sadness in you? So as Venerable Geshe-la gives example of momos, as somebody who's liking momos, who loves momos, and he's having momos, the first momo is very delicious, but if you keep having, and you get to a point where you're going to have your 21st momo, you will throw up. So if the momo itself had the capacity or had the quality in it to be always bring that pleasant feeling in you, then why is it that the same momo is giving you happiness, is giving you joy in the first momo and not in the 21st or 22nd? And in the same thing, it is not, if that object itself is so delicious, it's so nice, then why is it that some people like momo, some don't? If the object is inherently, intrinsically nice from itself, then why is it that not everybody likes it or sees it that way? They say that even for a flower, okay, we are seeing a flower, we see a color, yellow, brown, red, blue. But if that flower was to be actually that color, yellow, red, whatever we might say that the color is, okay, we'll say that, okay, everybody will at who have the similar, like if they're not colorblind, they'll say, okay, this yellow, red. But there are bees who will see a different color, a different shape of that particular flower. They will not see it as a yellow and red. So if that yellow and red existed intrinsically in that flower, and this is something which science can confirm, that each and every person or a being views or experiences each and every object in their own manner. So it is the objects that are there. So, but we experience it in our own way. So it says that when you look at it, you will not find that affliction or aversion, that affliction to be there within the object. So it is not in the object. Then what about the sense organs? Is it the eyes? Is it the nose, the taste, ears, which carry it? But if that is the case, then that experience should be same every time I get in touch with that particular object. But that is also not the case. Is it that that sense organ, when it comes in touch with the object, it is between the two that is attachment afflictions are there? But you will say no, in between there is space. There is no, this attachment aversion, this does not have any legs or physical presence. So it is not between the object or the sense organ. Then where are they? Where are they? Where is this affliction? Where is this thing that is coming from? Then where do they exist and how do they harm the world? Where are they existing? Is it really intrinsic? So he's saying you will not find them existing in the objects of the sense organs or in between them. And when you see that, okay, this particular thing is not intrinsically, objectively, independently there, then you will know that, okay, then how does it come into being? And how does it, and where does it go? So it comes into being via, again, a very intricate web of causes and conditions, which brings about that feeling, that affliction into place. And it is through dependent origination that this comes into being. So this, we will read, I think, more about this when we go further and do chapter 9. So here he's saying that as part of being careful and as part of being conscientious, just check that things that you're getting happy about, things you're getting sad about, people you like, people you dislike, the biases that we carry, where do they really exist? Is it outside or is it within me? If within me, where? What part? Why? So therefore, having thought about this well, I should try to put these precepts into practice just as they have been explained. If the doctor's instructions are ignored, how will a patient in need of cure be healed by his medicines? So the analogy here taken is that Buddha Shakyamuni here is taken as the doctor who has given this nectar-like medicine to all of us. So we have, if we have gone to him, he knows the illness, he has given the medicine, and he's given the instructions. If we do not take those medicines, if we do not follow the instructions, then how will we get rid of this misery, of this disease, of these afflictions and these miseries? So that is what he tells at the end of this chapter, Bodhisattva Shantideva, to himself, that you have to put these precepts into practice, know what is to be adopted, know what is to be rejected. And when you keep practicing this again and again, again and again, again and again, with carefulness, then you will come to a point where you start knowing and taking care of these afflictions. So now with this we come to the discussion and reflection section. And I would request all of you to put your videos on, please. So I'll go back to the same slide that we know this is right, this is wrong. But why is it that we fall into it again and again? Why do you think? Anybody, please? Anyone?
Simala.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. I think we've been doing it for a long time, and then if a certain period, if you're doing one thing over like it says 10,000 hours something, so then it gets to be habits. So we become a habit of doing things again and again. So that's why it's taking us hard time to on a track. This is what I believe.
I agree with you. Yes, it's those habits that get formed and it becomes difficult. But then it's always easier. It's always easier to get into bad habits. It's always difficult to make something good or virtuous as a habit. So why is that?
I think because we are surrounding with the, that's we are more in around with the people or circumstance that we get used to and drag your life, and then we involve many activities which is not for in a good cause. So whatever you are surrounding, you're reflecting, you just drag in there. So I think it's very important to know your goal, like you said.
Exactly.
Once you know the goals, and then you have to make a discipline, which is the hardest part in a life.
Exactly.
Certain age, especially, when you cross certain age, is really hard. But the thing is, it's not a hard. I won't say it is not a hard also, but it's just a discipline your mind, because we are not aware of so many things in a life. Like I introduced my own Tibetan after 35 years, right? So when
Okay.
you go back and when you see, you reflect so many things back in your life because you have that seed. But the thing is, you give an opportunity for yourself. Once you reflect that, then it's our it's our duty to select the right things, right path, right decision for yourself. Like Gisela always said, be wisely kind to yourself. I think that's so many relevant with the life.
Yeah. Thank you, Pimpala. Anyone else would like to share their thoughts and views? Anyone? Kaverila? Ujala probably? Jyotila? Maybe you can just speak and not put the video on, Jyotiji. That's also okay.
Sorry, Vimala, I've got a bit of, I think I'm getting a touch of fever, so I've been listening, but I'm also.
Oh, no issues, Kaveri. So I think what
Please.
I think what Pimpala talked about, I think it's by design that when we're in samsara, any negative thing has a greater pull. It's always when there are two roads, one is difficult, one is easy, we tend to take the easy route because we have a very short term vision. We only see, okay, for this period of time, this is going to be easy for me. At that time, we're not contemplating that what is easy might not be right. But by the time we react to it or we respond to it and we know or realize that this short term right thing was actually not good in the long run, we're already getting habituated to it. So I think it's important to, as you said, to remember the long term goal. What are we doing it for? And as I said in my last session, it is when we say that I want to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, I think it's always important to remember that it is your own happiness for which you're doing this. So your own happiness is the key. And until unless through learning, reflection, meditation, we get accustomed to this idea that this is for my own happiness. Till that time, we have to be careful. We have to get into a discipline. We again and again keep telling ourselves to do it. So I think that is the key. So anybody else would want to say something? Okay, so I think we'll end the discussion reflection session here, and now I'll take any questions if somebody has.
Vimala, I just wanted to ask one question that, for instance, like our imprints, sometimes we have such a clear predisposition, bad habits also, bad or whatever kind of habits.
Mhm.
So what is people's experience here to try to change those?
So I think bad habits, bad predisposition, tendencies. I think first thing is to start acknowledging or at least knowing that okay, this is bad. I think it starts from there because I mean that's my viewpoint that it starts from there. Until unless you know that this is bad, that's one. Then until unless you know that you are a slave to it, that means that you have a tendency, a very strong tendency to get pulled or pushed by it. So you know that it is bad, that is one. You acknowledge it. Second, you acknowledge it as a very bad tendency and habit. And then you take a resolve that it is bad and you reflect, as Bodhisattva Shantideva has given so many reasonings in this text to reflect the harms of giving up to that tendency. So I think if you remember, Venerable Geshe-la gives an example where Venerable Gananapa in his hut when he was meditating, he used to go to take water and there is a person who's abusing him for just taking water, and he's not saying anything, he's not reacting, but inside his mind he's getting that anger there. So when Venerable goes back to his heart, he reflects that I'm taking this vow for the benefit of all sentient beings, and I get angry. So he has to work on it more and more, more and more, more and more. And each time that he goes there, he checks his own reaction to it. Is it a reaction or is it a response? And each time he applies those antidotes. So anytime, it's not like this that we acknowledge today that I have a bad habit and I'm accustomed to it, I'm a slave to it. But you will realize that it is not just this realization which will help you get rid of it. You have to keep applying antidotes, keep reminding yourself again and again. Not just one antidote. Look for the antidotes. That is why learning and reflection is so important at that stage. Read about stories, read about the biographies. You know, we have our very good Sangha around. So we see such brilliant examples of inspiration around us. We try to get inspired. So each time apply that antidote. Maybe I cannot apply this antidote directly to me, but maybe next time I can try. So give yourself that room. Do not be too harsh on yourself too, because if you get into that guilt, that oh no, I'm worthless. I'm not able to going to do it. I don't think so. This is for me. This is very hard. I can't do it. I think the greatest thing at that point is to remember and tell yourself never to give up. Someday, as I said in my last session, someday, sometime, in some lifetime, I will conquer it. But then keep reminding yourself, even if you're not able to apply the antidotes, that this is bad and this is a very bad habit that I have to get rid of eventually, and I will someday. And keep doing whatever little steps you can take towards that. The same thing, learning, reflection, meditation, I believe. And as Venerable Geshe-la says at times, that whenever possible, try to break that habit sometime, maybe just once in a year. It might not be that hard, but then again, you are building that imprint to breaking that habit. So maybe today you do it once in a year, tomorrow might do it more often. Maybe you get to a point where you're able to break it once in a month. So we take baby steps. That is how I think we keep trying. It's not this that I have been successful in doing it or I've been doing it. It's just like the theory. So you have to keep telling yourself again and again. And I think nothing is a greater teacher than your own experience and your own practical experience and your own learning. But just keep reminding yourself of that. Does this answer your question, Kavila?
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else has any question, please? Yes, Pujala, please. I don't know what I'm gonna answer to you. Yeah, please go ahead.
So much. Vimal, I just wanted to, know your views, how being conscientious can help us to, get rid of this, I'm not saying get rid of, but to undermine this habit of procrastination.
Yeah, so I think as I briefly mentioned in the talk today, I think impermanence, I would say that be careful in terms of any time when you are procrastinating, think about impermanence. That I'm thinking I'm going to do it tomorrow. Will I be there tomorrow? Will that condition be there tomorrow for me to do it? So just being careful, and whenever you think, okay, or you put something to tomorrow or later, think that if it is better, let me do it today. And I think at times we have, we are juggling with multitasking all the time, right? So in multitasking, you have to prioritize. It's not this that even if you think about impermanence, it is not this that there are 10 things you want to do today. You have a limited time that you do. But then I think again, think on the priority. If you're saying all 10 are priority, then I think nothing is priority. So I think we start prioritizing, and we start prioritizing in terms of short term, long term, goals, in terms of benefits, in terms of pros and cons. So those, I think, certain cheat sheets help us to determine in terms of multitasking that, okay, what should I do first? And in the same manner and time, I think my mother, when I was little and I was born and brought up in a household where my mother was very caring, loving, and she was like, she used to do everything, all the household work, all the household chores by her own hands. And then I was very little, she really scared me. She used to tell me, that in home science, there is a subject, home science. If you take that, they will give you 10 tasks to do in a stipulated period of time. And then you have to do it and manage it in that period of time. And then she would tell me that how she used to do it in that 1 hour period, all those 10 activities. And it used to boggle me so much. And oh my God, if I am put into that situation, I don't think so I can do it in 1 hour. But with practice, and when you actually start doing those things, very small things in terms of the household chores and all, I think then from that point of time, the fear of that, that when I grow up, I'm not going to be able to do it. I had that fear in me. And for some reason, I was made to believe that it is very important for a girl to be able to do that. So for a very long period of time, I had that notion. So I kept on feeding it, and I kept on, putting that map into my brain, putting situations. Okay, if this happens, what am I going to do? And I think when time came to it and managing the household chores, I think I did reasonably okay in terms of multitasking. So I think that is about, that if there are too many things to do, think, prioritize, and push yourself a little. Not too much, that you're trying to complete everything and you fall down yourself. Not to that extent, but yeah, be wisely kind to yourself and take it up. Thank you so much. So anybody else has any other question that I can help answer, or at least attempt to answer?
Can I go, Rimala?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Mother.
Thank you
Please
so
go.
much. Yeah, I
Thank you.
really appreciate that. I've been listening your session. It's really helped me a lot because I would say because we both are common, have a lot of common as a woman, especially
Possible.
in lay people, to be very honest. Because when it comes from the lay people, because you have examples, setting examples, have very relevance, and that's catch my attentions. So I really want to appreciate that, and I like the what you said, web of karma. I never realized that. This is fantastic, and then most of the we are having a trouble because of how to speak, what to speak, when to speak, where to speak, and who to speak, right? That is, that is a huge part of our life. This is reflect who you are, right? And
Yes.
that makes me realize again also. And then, like you said, learn, reflect, and meditations, right? I've been learning and I try to reflect in my daily basis life. And meditation is really taking at me time, but it's all about discipline because since I
Yes.
was taking a classes, I become more like attentive and more curious and
Okay.
conscious.
Wonderful.
Yes, but
So precious.
it's taking a time to keep remembering everything in my brain, but I'm trying my best also. And also I realized that after introducing such a wonderful people, because when you see the people in front of you, oh my goodness, everybody is there. So I feel like there's a different community, all the sanghas. So
Yes.
I don't worry so much about dying because I know there is my sangha, which is I have
So
so much,
precious.
so much belief on that. And last thing I want to say that bodhicitta is all about mindset. Is that right, Rimala?
Yes. Yes.
And then we should apply every day in our life tasks, right? It's not only the
You can,
practice.
yeah. So it's like as I said in my last session also, His Holiness says that be kind whenever possible, and it is always possible. So at any given point of time, I think we can always strive or try to be doing that, be wisely kind. But it's not this that we'll be successful every day, every time, every instance, but we try.
Yeah,
And
it's a
yeah,
wonderful, because before I introduce Buddhism, bodhicitta, I was always looking my point of view when I do something, when I say something, right? After this, I having an opportunity, this platform, now I can, put myself in other side and put in other shoes. Then I reflect,
so
and then
wonderful. Yeah.
think of other side. Okay, if I'm doing a good for other people, but if I'm not doing the what they want, so then it's not what do you call it? It's not I'm not doing the what they want me to do it. So
Yeah.
then it makes me stop, okay? And I want, make me think, is that possible? Are you doing a right thing? So I have a lot of question in myself now. And then what I used to think, now I have hardly think. And the
So wonderful,
reaction
Pampala.
of other
Keep the
people,
spirit going. I
yeah.
think I rejoice and rejoice in whatever you
Thank
have
you
been
so
able to
much.
do and
Yeah.
reflect upon. I really rejoice. Thank you so much.
And Pujala
Sorry,
also, I
this is
took
such
her
a
class
small
too.
group. This is such a small group. Can I ask Pampala, are you the Amala
Yes.
of Namsa?
Yes, sure. But what is that?
Are you the Amala of Namsa? No, no, no.
No, I
No,
live
no.
in
Okay,
America,
okay, okay, okay.
California. I
Sorry,
have two
sorry.
young
Okay.
kids.
Okay, okay, okay.
So
Sure.
it's very
Yeah.
early for you, Pampala. Which what side? What coast are you on? East Coast
On
or West
California,
Coast?
West Coast,
Oh, okay. Still,
California.
it's quite
Yeah.
early
So
for you to get up and
I
listen
think,
to this talk. I really
that's why I'm
appreciate.
saying, that's why I'm
You know,
saying, that's why
yeah.
I'm saying, because we have no class for the Geshe-la. Now my schedule is interrupt. Can you believe that? I don't know what to do now.
You go to bodhiwisdom.org, you will find it is a ocean of text teachings there, Geshe-la, which has taught. So if you're missing Geshe-la's teachings, I would suggest you please visit www.bodhiwisdom.org. There are these audio recordings from his wonderful retreats, so many teachings that he's given. So if you are feeling the miss or missing Geshe-la's teachings, my suggestion is please go to that website and you will find it all there.
Sure, I am doing that, but on class is something, it's connect me so much.
Yes,
In
that's
class,
it.
when I
We're
go,
going to, I think,
I feel like
yeah,
I'm doing it's my blessed day. I'm gonna do one good thing in a day. So same
wonderful.
thing
Thank
when
you
I
so much.
attend you all class, then I say I'm gonna do one good deed. That's my commitment every day when I take a class.
I'm
Something
so
new.
happy to hear that.
Yeah,
I rejoice,
so
and that
much.
is
Thank
something.
you,
That is
Vimala.
something which I think I don't do. I strive to do, but I don't think so that I'm able to do it every day. So if you're able to do it, I really rejoice that you're able to do it.
Thank
So
you so much for
if
everyone.
if anybody has no more questions, maybe we'll end with the dedication. Does anybody has any comment or any questions? No, I think so. I think we'll just move to the dedication part. Just give me a moment. So while I'm bringing the dedication up, we have Pujala here with us, and I would like to thank Pujala for gifting me this precious commentary, the nectar of Arya Manjushi's speech, which is a commentary on Bodhicaryavatara. So this was very preciously gifted to us by Pujala. So thank you, Pujala. This has helped me a lot. Thank you so much. And if you would like to know, I have used this text, the commentary in this, for most of the talks, the two talks that I've given. So thank you, Pujala. Thank you so much. So while we're at this, so we end with the dedication. May no living creature ever suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, or their minds ever be depressed. By the merits I have accumulated, may every single being abandon all forms of evil and perpetually engage in virtue. I prostrate to Manjughosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And I personally thank Venerable Keshe Dorji Dambila for giving me this opportunity to share whatever little I have learned, to give me this platform to talk, to meet with such beautiful Sangha members, to get to hear your ideas, your application of the practice. I've learned a lot myself too. So thank you all. Thank you for everything. I hope and pray sincerely that I personally prove worthy to get the teaching or student of Venerable Geshe Dorji Dambila. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rimaji. Thank you so much.
Remaji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Nah.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.